Grateful with these amazing men here. First Divine Masculine round table. Super grateful and blessed. You guys are amazing. Last week, we started to get to know each other, and the universe was working collectively to put us all together. Welcome.
Oh,
So
good to be here.
Yeah. Oh,
So let's get this party started, because it really feels like a party. It really feels like a lot of magic coming out. I thought it was overdue to start a positive aspect of what my business partner Paula was doing on the feminine part of it. And I thought it was interesting to actually put a masculine roundtable together, divine masculine roundtable together. Now, I've sent you guys an email regarding, the premise on it, but really what I want to focus on for myself is really the last point. So I'm just going to read what I've put, and then we can talk about that and see what wants to emerge from us. So the last couple of points I said is, in supporting our divine masculine energy, we in turn become stronger vessel to support, nurture, and protect the divine feminine energy. The rise and leadership of feminine energy on this planet is the most important singular event on this planet. This will initially bring more love onto this planet, more creativity, and eventually lead us into unity consciousness. As divine masculine, it is our role to protect and ensure that the feminine energy takes root, rises, and flourishes. So with that, what's your comment on this? What are you feeling into this? And what wants to emerge? Not all at once.
Well, okay. I mean, I'll jump in and share. I think part of my recent transformation in terms of character and my intention for navigating this realm, being in a body, just trying to be here, has been to recontextualize what my role is in dealing with the feminine, and trying to take more of a responsibility and recognizing that as a man, I know we've got our archetypes, but one of my archetypes is that of a healer. And I'm still working on all the other archetypes, but I felt like I need to take that seriously. And as opposed to, I am of the thought of wanting to hold women accountable, because we've been held accountable, but also holding myself accountable for how I act and kind of navigate this whole thing, trying to figure out what is it to bring healing to the opposite sex, quote unquote, and what is it to embody the fullness of what it is to be a man. So that's been my journey since 2016, since I decided to stick around, if you will, and it's been really interesting. So I jive with what you just shared a moment ago, and this is the perspective that I'm navigating with.
Well, I something triggered within me, so I feel like I need to jump in right now. And I think self-healing is really the first step in all the process. For me to be an embodiment of love and to project love, and you really need to heal your own stuff and hold yourself accountable with that. And sometimes as men, we find that very difficult to do, because it's always it's somebody else's fault. It's not necessarily
Right.
fault, right? So that journey of holding yourself accountable and then looking, and that's a courageous journey too, to look within and to start that process of healing. I think it starts all there. So I would agree with that.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I think
The toughest part of the journey.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all of you guys, first of all, for being here. It's a blessing that we can all come together during these transformational times. And I couldn't be more grateful about accountability, because I have a powerful beloved that holds me to the highest of accountability. So it's interesting when all these energies are moving forward, and she's in a process of healing the toxic masculine, and I see my own toxic masculinity can rise through some of our programs, some of our beliefs. And it's interesting when that accountability comes up, is really to what I feel is to give as much compassion, love, respect, and most important, honor, because a lot of the times I even like to use the word lesser masculine, because sometimes the toxic masculinity triggers me in the sense of what we come, because sometimes just the term masculinity can be contrived in different areas.
Right.
But in my journey, I feel with many of us, it's that really going within and really honoring ourselves in our highest self-love and our highest self-respect and our highest self-healing, because I feel we are here at this moment to really support the sacred feminine divine in the highest level. And I feel a lot of them right now are looking for trust from us, looking for security, and from a very root chakra. And when we can stand in our strength of masculinity, and we can stand in the fullness of who we already are, then we can naturally beam. Obviously, we are all on this crazy journey right now of the COVID virus and what's happening all across the world. But really, I love what you said in the beginning about the accountability, because it really starts with us first, and then really to watch our actions, our thoughts and beliefs with our highest respect to our beloveds, because I feel they're really calling upon us to support them, because as we see, what I recognize in Washington, D.C., the lion's den of all, is there's this skeptical belief system being torn down. And right now I feel that trust is really one thing that a lot are turning to, and within our strength in the masculine, we need to stand in that full trust, but that that starts with our heart. So I just wanted to add to that, because I see a lot of strong men on the screen right now, and I just feel grateful that all of you guys have come together and share this, because the more we can unify, the more we can share this across the world.
Oh,
I have something to add to that. I think building ourselves up is really, really important to an individual level for the women in our direct lives. But when you talk about trust, I think it's really important more than ever today that women don't feel a general sense of that complete power and love and just presence from the random strangers that are around them as well. And like just talking to a really beautiful woman last week, actually, and she was explaining in a deep way how disempowering it feels to just like physically to be overpowered at any point, and just like all those kind of feelings that women have walking the streets. And it really hit home for me how precious and how like vulnerable. I don't want to say women are smaller than men, all whatever, but it's just there's a lot of vulnerabilities in the world, and when you act in your full power, just walking by someone, just that little sense of awareness of feeling that strong masculine presence beside you can really heal them without even talking to them. So I think it's like really important to really, like, embody all the strengths we've learned on an individual level and that we project onto the ladies that are in our lives, and like really be conscious of when we're walking on the streets, like look, make eye contact, and really kind of like put that divine love into the strangers that we meet, right, too. Yeah.
Well, but the problem with that, though, Miguel, is that there's so much division. It has been so much division. The masculine power seceded like on December 21st, 2012, and this is when we have the beginning of the feminine, of the rise of the feminine power. So you look back when that last feminine power was in place over 12,000, 13,000 years ago, and what in its wake, masculine energy has done on this planet. So it's no surprise that feminine power is a bit skeptical and a little bit untrustworthy. I mean, we single-handedly, the largest atrocity was, the Salem witch hunts, the pagan atrocities, and it goes on and on and on. So we as men need to take responsibility of that, and we are at a very unique place, I think, where we can catapult everything and create the right the wrongs from the past, I think. Yeah. But in order to do that, is the division that's been created. We as men, in my view, don't have a clear understanding of what it means to walk into our masculine power. What is that? And I can tell you, we can share a story if it's okay with you, Bradley. Share a story with Bradley and I when we first start on here. But I want to ask the question to you guys first. What is it to mean for you guys to walk into your divine masculine power?
Anyone else want to go?
Yeah, how do you guys want to I'm always ready to jump, but I'd like to be considerate.
Jump in, brother.
I think the rule is if you want to jump, you jump, because when you jump, you'll create a synergy with everything else.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll take the honor of jumping. This is something I've been thinking about. For me, I needed some guidance and direction, and I felt like I never had it. And so I decided to just go out and, figure it out for myself, and said, I'm going to redefine this for myself. Right. And what I looked into was I had to look back at the wounds that I was navigating with, and it's funny. The first book that I read, a book called Tripping the Prom Queen a long time ago. And what it was about was the dissension between women. I kept wondering, because I kept feeling like I was getting caught up in the mix in my relationships between women not really, being sincere with each other. And so there was this war that I wasn't aware of that I needed to figure out. And then this book came into my field and I read it and I was like, okay, it's really hurtful, to see how, the women are navigating, but consistently undercutting each other. And then I was like, wait, this is going on with us as men too. Now, there's some men that I've come in contact with, say some military gentlemen of the older generation, and I noticed they had a code amongst themselves.
Yes.
And so then it was like, okay, what is the code? I need to develop a code for myself that I can, one, be trustworthy in the presence of another man. And this has nothing to do with him, but for myself. And then also, two, be open to receiving that. And that's probably been the hardest journey for me, because I feel like I have been backstabbed and there's been all this like hidden thing of, who can I trust? But it's taken me to just say, why don't I just be trustworthy and open up the door for that? And so it's building fraternity and closeness and like really trying to dive deeper into that amongst men. And I feel like that is a doorway for us to be able to teach and to learn from each other and to really love each other and have intimate, connections and build off of that. And I see that the women can feel that. So if I come into the presence of another man, I've already got this, there's things that I know that I would speak to and I may keep in my chest, but underneath all of that, my intention is to build him up and to also build myself up in that relationship. So I'm not crossing certain lines. And maybe I sound vague, but I'm still developing all those. But the intention is to really be able to trust each other. And it's a new thing. And I feel like it's a big issue amongst us.
But I think this is a great opportunity for all of us to unpack that and explore that together. Because you mentioned trust within each other. Why is it important to trust? Is it a sense of vulnerability? Is it because when we expose ourselves and surrender to ourselves, we are open to our wounds? Is it because the hurt that will cause us will create more trauma? What is that exactly? Why couldn't we just surrender fully to it and say, okay, whatever will be, and let that experience guide us?
It's a courageous attitude to take, and it's, for me, it's been a willingness to allow myself to be hurt, knowing that I'll survive the hurt because I've survived worse, in that trust relationship. You can't force it, but I can show up with my heart and chest out, in love and see what happens. So I've been experimenting with that personally.
Yeah, and I think that's really what it takes. This is a sense of experimentation, because it's like a newborn or a toddler taking its first steps and getting confidence under itself and saying, okay, I got this, and then move forward and moving a little further. And I think in my experience, the moment I do that within myself and surrender within the process, a blooming happens. The people, the men, the people in general come into my life that actually serve me to actually release even more, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel, I'm going to jump in.
Yeah, jump in, brother.
Trust. I feel like if you look at what's gone on a collective level and the sort of paradigm that we're coming from, the sort of wounded, distorted, masculine, patriarchy, whatever you want to call it, it's very much set up on the basis of control. For one, it's set up on the different polarities and the dogma of good and bad and right and wrong. And there's an inherent feeling of shame. And we all grow up and we all move into this world feeling inherently flawed, and that we have something to prove, to win others' approval, and in doing that, it becomes a game of competition. It becomes a game of needing to elevate ourselves above not just the men, but the women. Because of that, I'm not good enough, that I'm sure that most of us can relate to, and that need to push forward. And so, you know, another man is a threat. Another woman is a threat. And that's, you know, this isn't something, this is something we're all going through because of the nature of this masculine matrix that we're a part of, this distorted masculine.
Exactly.
And as the feminine is starting to rise, it's like, what's the nature of the feminine? It's the allowance and the acceptance. And that is the medicine of dogma, because the feminine can allow for good and bad, right and wrong, this and that, and it encompasses it all. There's nothing to prove, there's nowhere to run.
There just is.
And that brings us, what is the nature of the masculine? Protection, we're saying, but it's the presence and holding.
Yes.
Right. So when we come out of that illusion of needing to compete and needing to create a result in the future, and only being able to love a version of ourselves once we have this or that, or the career or the job or the money or the relationship, and bringing us back to actually, I am fine right now, I'm perfect, complete and whole, and I'm loved, right? And then it's from that place, that's the place from which, okay, now I'm allowing myself to feel. I'm able to be vulnerable. I'm able to open up, and I'm able to hold love of another man. And from that space, when you're allowing that feminine in yourself, you allow the feminine in your life to rise up.
Right.
And because that's the other thing, isn't it? It's like, I noticed it in myself still, and the amount of work I've done. But there's a fraction of me, there's a part of me that when my partner Abby's being super powerful, I'm scared. Because I'm scared on some level, I'm scared she's going to go. I'm scared I'm going to lose her. I'm scared she's going to find another man, you know, who's, you know, and so the energetically, there's a part of me that wants to pull her down and keep her small. The beauty is that now I recognize that, and I speak it, and I name it, and I speak to her about it, and I feel it, and then I go into what it is, that part of me. And again, it's just bringing more of that acceptance, more of that feminine energy to that part of myself, so that I can be present for her. Because it's all a reflection. If I can be present with my own feminine, I can be present with her. I can be present with the collective. And it's the transition that's already happening. And it's spaces like this that we're, you know, it's in alignment with what's already happening. And therefore it's a very much, this call feels like it's like almost like an acceleration, or it's very potent in that kind of quality, you know?
Oh,
Beautiful said, John, or Bradley. Beautiful said. I was going to say, Sean, I'd love to get your comments on this. I know you've been just in the scene in the background, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
So I've been witnessing this conversation and allowing it to stir up whatever emotions it stirs up, and mostly been dealing with staying present, and my main intention has been to understand the language being used, and get the message from what each man here is trying to portray. I don't see the world through the same lens that is being portrayed here. So I'm going through a process of, I guess, like translation, if you would, where I'm translating these terms and dealing with my judgments at the same time. So, I mean, if I were to look at, you know, if I were to do a clearing around what's going on in me, my judgment is that the concepts being discussed in this forum are somewhat archaic, And then I get to look at, is that me wanting to elevate myself, or, and so in this, and there's obviously a piece of that, if we were looking as men, as Bradley sort of talked about, that wound that drives behaviors of not being enough. Is that sneaking in my bias, or, and how rigid have I become to my new beliefs around masculinity and femininity, and the process of that. So there was a place for me, probably 3 or 4 years ago, where I used to see masculine and femininity as what's kind of how it's being portrayed here, which is men and women. And certainly when we're talking about gender, there's a biological gender, and then there's an energetic gender.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about the divine masculine or the divine feminine, or that type of thing, I don't see that as physical gender. Although I certainly understand, that I understand like patriarchy, right? Or matriarchy, that type of concept again. But I don't look at masculine as something that is specific to men. And I don't look at feminine as something that's specific to women. So there's this sort of convolution, and in the language, it's been somewhat messy for me to listen to it here and to understand. And I've been resisting going, hey guys, let me sort you all out. And, because in the language, it's been really messy in this container so far. People referring to women as the feminine,
Right.
and men as the masculine. And I don't see it that way at all. But then again, I've done tons of work around integrating, and, I think the way it started for me was sort of that Jungian psychology. I don't know if everybody's here familiar with Carl Jung and the anima and the animus.
Yeah.
But finding my animus, and that came through struggle with my wife. So like how Bradley was talking about a second ago, about conflict between a woman in his life, bringing up maybe fear or uncertainty. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, Bradley, but sort of this looking for fulfillment in the woman or whatever, or being afraid that she would want another man, that type of situation led me to finding the animus inside of me and getting a clear picture on what is my animus. And I don't know if you want me to keep going on that.
Go ahead.
I'm happy.
It's your floor.
So my understanding of an animus, or the way I guess it was introduced to me by my main mentor, who's a woman and brilliant, was sort of imagining how I came to the animus. I guess was imagining my ideal woman, if you would. So what would this image be of a perfect woman that obviously no woman could ever measure up to that standard, right? And to make it real simple, obviously, my ideal woman is very complex, but to make it real simple, she was a very motherly, nurturing slut, so, so I did ritual around this and found her inside of me and allowed myself to have an affair with her. And rather than, cheating on my wife, I would go to the beach and indulge in fantasies with this internal, motherly slut, and then I went through a process of sort of embodying her, and then embodying this idea of who I am as a man, and kind of going back and forth until the lines started to cross and become blurred and become integrated and accept all of it as one whole person that is, I guess, embodying the mother inside of me, the slut inside of me, the father inside of me, the stand-up man, if you will, the man who shows up erect, you know, that sort of David Data masculine archetype, if you will, you know, but integrating those two kind of, for me, made me more whole. And I don't know that that's a path for anyone else, but if I am brought into a conversation around masculine and femininity, that's certainly my experience of becoming whole. And I can't speak for anybody else. I could make assumptions and guess that would be valuable for others, but who am I to know that, you know? And I've worked with some people who have gone through that process and have come out more whole on the other side. And so for me, this conversation, especially when we're talking about sort of integrating, because I think that the matriarchy would have as many downfalls as the patriarchy. Then it's certainly, you know, I can acknowledge, and I think it needs to be said that we've been living in a state of patriarchy, like you know, like you said, for over 1,000 years, you know, and for thousands of years, and there's the path out. I don't think is to let the pendulum swing the other way, although that may be a natural consequence of swinging so far one way. But in the end, I think that an integration of masculine and feminine inside each individual. And then, of course, there's a myriad of methods that we may go through, you know, whether I tend to like the Native American sort of, you know, turning to the sun for the masculine and turning to the ocean or Mother Nature, the forest for the feminine, that type of thing. So anyway, that's sort of where I'm at right now in this conversation.
Can I just say one thing to that? First of all, thank you very much for speaking your truth, brother. It's so important that I feel the depth can be revealed, because I too feel that there is an element that there is, and we all know, a feminine and masculine within us. And coming from a shamanic background, I really feel this time is a full integration of that right now. And we've been living in thousands of years of a very escalated masculinity. And I really feel in this golden age and rise of the feminine energies, that's a rise within both elements of the sexes. And I also feel, I love what you said, Bradley, about the polarity, because that's what we're really disseminating right now. And it's very interesting, because I think all of our topics are great points to be brought forward, because really I feel our whole belief structure is crumbling down right now. And it's really what I keep going back just personally is to the heart, because I feel the heart is the trueness of it all, speaking from the love that guides us. And I feel, as what I'm picking up from all of us, we have a very expressive way of communicating, which is a gift of our feminine hearts. It's a huge gift that we can connect in that. And I feel when you spoke about, you know, masculinity, Zeus, I feel it's the integration, the equanimous, the balance of it all, because as we know, when we're in full alignment, then there's no polarity, there's no duality anymore, even though we've been taught right, wrong, good, bad. It's that shift of the lower mind into the higher heart, into the higher mind. And I know all of us have different terminologies, different pieces. So I want to reframe just to my truth and honor all of your truths as well, because we all have our different backgrounds. But, you know, for me, as you know, Jesus, I just keep coming back to the heart and the truth. And what I feel right now and what I'm seeing is I'm feeling and seeing a rise of this feminine conscious energy. I'm seeing that, and I'm feeling it within myself, and I feel it within the expression that's coming out. And I feel that a lot of that energy is being placed forward also to help that masculine part of ourselves to rise, because it has been suppressed. I feel for many generations, there has been this, I don't want to say egoic, but falsehood of what that masculine energy has been. And so when we can integrate both and align both, then we can maybe start peeling back the terminology of it and just create what is, so that we're now coming from more of a neutrality, a 0 point field that allows us just to be in balance, in alignment. So I appreciate, because I just studying a lot from my Eastern background in Chinese medicine and learning about the Tao and just seeing all sides. It's interesting to see polarity, duality, all of it, and then come back, which I just keep coming back to my heart and feeling what it is. And my source is love, that source from the heart that guides me in the fullest trust. So I appreciate, Sean, for you just expressing fully and just looking at the terminology, because we're all, that terminology I feel is like it's peeling away, and all of us are on beautiful journeys ourselves. And I feel like those journeys start to evolve where it opens up the conversation for us to speak our truth. So
I love everything that you said, Sean. I'm completely in sync with what you've said. And words have a limiting factor in the expression of what we actually feel. Part of the premise of these conversations is to unpack words and terminology, because I think personally, and I don't want to project anybody else, I think we are progressive men, and by far I think we are the least of the population that, and for me, I'm looking at unity. I'm looking at how we can reach these other males that are maybe not quite where we are, and that's their own journey. You know, that's really where I'm at. And I've noticed within me a more coalescence and integration and awareness within the feminine energy and the masculine energy, and exploring the integration. And like you, Michael, and like all of you, actually, I feel the love from all of you, and expressing that love is part of what protecting that feminine energy is and where we're going, right? I really think that's singular, and we have to look at how to heal other men and women, and look at how to become more united as opposed to divided. That's the exploration, and words have a way of doing that, unfortunately. But exploring, unpacking, talking, and synthesizing information, this is what this is all about. So I'm loving it, and thank you for saying what you did, Sean, and Michael, and Azraya, and Miguel. That's the other thing that I love. I love that we're in a different part of our journeys of our life. We've got very diverse men from very diverse part of the world, different age groups, and we're all in our own unique journey, right? There is truth within us, and whatever is my truth may not necessarily resonate with you, but you may hold onto it you may remember it at some point in time. And if it serves you, amazing, right?
It's interesting. I've gone to a lot of different churches. I'm not a religious person, but I'm spiritual, and I go to a lot of churches, and I enjoy when I was younger, I used to get like backed up. I used to get upset, at stuff that wasn't maybe my belief or whatever. And I think it came from a Christian mother trying to force her beliefs down my throat. And as I got older and more mature, I started to go, if I went to somebody else's church, no matter what kind of church it was, I would use that process of almost translating. What are they saying? They're saying the same thing. They're just using different words and stories and whatever, and translate it, even coming out of whether it's a pastor or a priest or a, whatever, a nun or a shaman or whatever, a monk, what's the underlying message? And so in this conversation, and how do you say it? Zissa?
You can call me Zesis. Yeah, Zesis.
Zesis. I noticed this last time you spoke, you switched and used the words male and female, or men and women, when referring to the body, the gender, the body that a person comes with, and then masculine and feminine as the energy.
Yeah.
And so while I can't speak for a woman or a female, you know, I can speak for feminine. I can speak for the feminine energy. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and one thing I'm appreciating right now about this conversation, especially coming from you, Sean, is the ability to actually speak to what you're feeling inside directly, like in the moment. I think that's been an interesting journey for me, to actually be able to be in conversations and check in with myself while still being present, and then also be able to speak to what is getting in the way, or what have I perceived within me that has gotten in the way of drawing closer and getting to a clear communication. So I think it's really, really good that you spoke to, you know, what you were hearing, and also how you navigate what you hear, and also like how you express, because then it opens up the door for us to all, you know, move forward in a different way. It's easy for us to jump into this scene, as we're all like to jump into a heteronormative way of expressing, but yet I know, because I've paid attention to a good number of you, you know, that we're navigating in a way that's about integrating and really getting beyond, I don't want to say perceived barriers, but the barriers that we've just been towing behind us and carrying as baggage. So I do appreciate being able to unpack together and move beyond those things, and be like just being able to speak straight, you know,
without judgment, and with support, because I think part of I can speak for myself, part of my issue of expressing is the sense of shame, or this sense of not being good enough. You know, that's the programming that I think that I've certainly experienced within my realm, and really dealing with it and healing that wound. But it would be so much better to have a group of men around me as supporting, and kind of having that, you know, bounce back, as it were, like, no, you're not crazy. No, you're right about this. No, it is society that has, you know, initiated this, right? That's what makes the journey so much better and so much more comfortable, as it were. And I think we need that as men, as we start this courageous journey. It is a hero's journey, as far as I'm concerned, not only for the men per se, but also for the women.
I agree.
And
Yeah, it's beautiful to acknowledge the shame, you know, and to allow for it, because I think a lot of problems in the world are caused through people avoiding actually feeling shame, and all of the behaviors that spur out of just that unwillingness to go there and to sit with that and to feel it, you know, and to be able to, you know, when shame's it's just an emotion when that's naturally triggered, which it does get frequently, you know. Maybe when Sean started speaking, maybe there was even a little bit of shame starting to bubble up inside me, you know.
yeah.
And it's just like, just to be able to speak to that and to be witnessed by you men, and to be held in that, so that I'm in a space where you guys can be with your shame, that allows me to be with mine, and that allows that shame to dissolve, and I don't have to seek to change that feeling or to avoid it through behaviors outside. I can literally just drop in and allow. And again, that's that rise of the feminine, it's that allowing, and then that divine masculine presence with that allowance. And that's like the divine union I see that goes on. That's like the alchemy that is present, that can be present in us on this journey.
Well, I'll be vulnerable. And I said I had a sense of shame. Sean, as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, did I get this conversation wrong? Did I start getting divided? Did I instill division on people? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, then the judgmental guy, what a fucking idiot. Oh my God, I fucked this up altogether, right? So, you know, play back the video. You can see my expression. So my point is this: where I may have been in the past, like you, Bradley, where I may have been in the past, where I would have recoiled, would have had the judgment come in play and say, holy fuck, move back, retreat, right? What I've done is allow it, like you said, Bradley, allow it to be, let it, explore it for what it is, it has no power. Once you name it, it has no power, and let it dissolve. And having it expressed like this is actually what's the most empowering part of this, right?
Yeah.
This practice is what's most important part in part of the healing. And I find for myself, the more I do this, the more layers underneath start to reveal themselves.
I would just like to say that I'm a little on the younger side in the group, so I wouldn't call it shame, but just maybe a bit of nervousness, or because I've had a little bit less direct lived experience of some of you guys. So I'm on my own journey, but yeah, when you were talking, it made me really think of what kind of words you use and how important the use of words are in general. And I'm really into etymology and just like learning how to be a breathwork instructor and learning that inspire is to breathe in and conspire is to breathe together, and all these beautiful things that come from the past and from our powerful forefathers. And I think if people had a real deeper appreciation for words in general, I think that alone would contribute to a lot of more presence and power within themselves and control over your reality and the ability to let go when you need to, and just an ability to understand others. If we had better understandings of where our words came from, I think it's just a little quirk, but I think it's an interesting little rabbit hole to go down, I guess. I don't know.
No, I completely agree with you. Words are the basis. Words are like spells, and people take them for granted, I think. And we've, in a way, what we're doing is really simplifying life, letting go of all the things that have burdened us, but yet haven't realized, because we haven't really lived life to its full potential. We've been living the programmings that have been instilled in us, in my view, right? And the exploration of those programs, as you were talking, Israel, is really very convoluted at times too. That's why it takes as long as it takes sometimes. It takes a whole lifetime to go through that and understand it and live it and experience it and go, oh my God, now I understand, right? And for me, I'm just looking and exploring with other men. It doesn't necessarily have to be like-minded men. I mean, there's so much value in having a different reflection, right? Because that's something that I may have been missing, right?
I like to jump in, Jesus. I think it's beautiful that you brought this together, because I don't know how all you guys are feeling, but I do feel this is personally, I feel a time of expression. And what's really cool about this today is, we can be raw and real. We don't have to hold back. We don't have to we know that we're all here to respect and honor each other. And it's good to bring up these feelings, because we've all felt shame. We've all felt guilt. We've all felt these emotions. And I feel in my journey, part of it is each morning I just wake up wanting and focusing on how I can be the most authentic version of me, how I can be the fullest expression of who I am in my alignment, without trying, without pushing, without pulling, but just being. And it's been, my gosh, these past weeks and months, it's been just pulling me left and right, because I feel like, I'm just going to be love. I'm just going to go out there and be chill. And then, this 5D living, which, another terminology of just being love, and then throwing out in this world that we're all living in. It's amazing to see how it's a journey. Every day is a complete journey, just to come back to that center of okay, let me just be me. Let me be that authentic version, that kindness, that generous, that willingness of just what we all came down here. There's what I feel is that our gifts to shine upon in this moment. And it's, and I just love the raw, the real, the truth, and not holding back. Because for me, the more we can be our truest self, we're coming from our integral standpoint. I feel like there's nothing holding back. And part of what, I want to say, that just as personally what I'm feeling in this rise in golden age feminine consciousness, is we're being nudged a little, pushed a little to speak our truth, to come out and even speak about the things that don't feel comfortable. I love what you said, Sean, as like the things that maybe people would say, whoa, slut, whoa, that terminology may not be spiritual or conscious, but the more we can verbalize and get it out there, it starts to open up the ability for us to be real. And I feel that's the journey that a lot of all of us are on, because the falsehood of what's being, is being pulled down right now, which I think we see in everything, is the realness is coming forward. And what I appreciate, Bradley and Miguel, is when we speak about shame and we speak about this, it's the realness that we have to confront, because that's where I feel some of the masculinity has been distorted, because we've been protecting and trying to put this falsehood of who we think we are and what the strength of the real masculine is, when we can just come back to our hearts and be the real version of we are and just open this conversation. So I appreciate Zesis and all of you guys of just expressing your truth, being real and raw, and just being. Whatever comes out is not right or wrong, good or bad. We're putting it out there so we can feel that vibration. And it's kind of like that, I call it a cosmic car wash. It's like we're just kind of constantly clearing, moving and seeing where this vibration goes, because I don't know how you guys have been feeling, but it's been freaking intense lately.
Very intense.
Michael, I just want to thank you. There's two things that came to mind as you were speaking, but even when you spoke a moment ago, you were mentioning like the Tao and Eastern philosophy. And there's one thing that stuck out to me along my journey, was there's a statement, I'm just going to paraphrase, where in the Tao Te Ching, it's mentioned to know the masculine, but keep to the feminine. Yeah. And that was mind-boggling for me to hear when I heard it, because I was like, what does that mean? And so, then this discussion on the center of the wheel, which would be the 0 point. Yeah. And so navigating that and trying to integrate, all of myself, and then to be in experiences, to be in situations like we are in this group right now, where hopefully we can, and I'm saying hopefully, but I know it's already happening, we can actually just come in truth and present our experience and have that be seen by fellow men. Yes. And then validated and spoke to, and I can share my experience, and you can share how that experience that I've shared makes you feel, but I don't have to hold that back. I can speak of what's been going on with me and how I've been trying to navigate and understand the world in this chocolate frame, in America, with the things that are going on. And often we get together in these groups where we all have different flavors that are put together. And we know that, we're more than these frames, but to be able to unpack what we've been carrying in our bodies and in our minds and our hearts, and come to a new place where we're sharing our reality together is really powerful. And so I feel like, all these little points are bringing us into that. And I'm just grateful to be in a space where I think this is going to happen. It's going to be good for other people to see and good to experience together. So I feel myself melting into the strength of this group. I was nervous coming in. One, because I didn't want to oversleep. The only thing that'll get me up early, and I know Sean understands this, surfing. I'll wake up early for surfing, but I'm landlocked right now. Yeah, and so it's like this. I haven't been able to sit together with a group of men in this way in a minute, and it's a really beautiful thing to experience. And I'm just looking forward to all of us melting away what's been keeping us, because we know this is going to have a collective effect anyways, but what's been keeping us from just presenting ourselves as we are, as we sharpen each other, and going forth with that and building that camaraderie here. That's the healing.
And holding each other accountable. And holding each other accountable. Yeah. That really, I think, is part of what is very important collectively, holding each other accountable. I want to ask you guys, one of my perceptions of is authenticity, walking into authenticity. I know that I've struggled over my life of walking into my authenticity for a myriad of reasons, and I can go into them as I understand them, but I want to understand from you guys what your impressions are of walking are you there into your authenticity? Do you feel you can fully be expressive into your authentic being coming into this particular form, or is this still a journey for you guys? And what are the barriers as you've talked about, Uzziah?
For me, that's a strong journey, and I'm having to restart every day. I feel like every day, let's say I'm jumping on Facebook and giving lives and I'm experiencing things, and then something will happen that I feel like it may be an integration, it might be an upgrade, but it often feels like the rug is being pulled out from under me, my feet, and I'm having to look at, like when Sean brings it up, I'm like, yeah, man, you can express yourself in terms that aren't so convoluted, but you want to sound intelligent because you are intelligent and you've got these other words, but do these words get you to where you want to go? Right. So if I could, I did a Vipassana at one point, a long time ago. And in the Vipassana, I wasn't speaking. None of us spoke. But yet so much was communicated. And that was really eye-opening and heart-opening for me. We had champions of kindness and love, and there were no words. And so I can see how having an appreciation for words and learning how to navigate them properly helps. But also, too many words sometimes can get in the way. And so as I'm learning new things, you know, I'm also like feeling like, oh, I got to start over again. And is this really me? How much of this is me? And you know, what's in the way of me getting to me? And so I feel like I'm always having to warm it up a little bit, you know, get warmed up. We're talking and delayering. And then I start to feel this calm and like, okay, this is me speaking here. And so I feel like it's a group journey, you know, and to be able to have that to where it's okay to express is something new, but I know it's a movement in the right direction. So it just takes effort and a real willingness to hold yourself accountable. It's an inner work for sure on my end, and commitment.
What about anybody else? Authenticity.
I would just say, I know for my fact, this freaking head gets me this thinking sometimes. Exactly what you said. Sometimes all these words and all these thoughts, and I just can't slow this brain down because it just feels like it's been so overstimulated in this society. And I know when I drop into my heart and I feel my heart, there's this peace that comes into just being real. And I feel my own, you know, I get in my own way a lot of times just by, you know, the energies that I want to strive for, but then the mind just starts going down this journey of these just beliefs and programs. And I grew up in the Mid-Atlantic. I tried to escape here. I went to California and got my, you know, acupuncture license. I escaped the States, went to Mexico for 10 years and thought I could just freaking leave America. I went to Bali, spent 2 summers in Bali. I was just like trying to run away from this right here because I feel like the mind kept trying to like come back, like, you're not good enough. You got to do more. You got to like this program of just trying to be the best person and compete. And like, I felt like growing up, I was this oversensitive being that could feel so much, but I had to protect myself with my brain because of this, of not trying to be like pushed down by like what I feel, which was funny. All my friends had this like alpha male, like all these like alpha tough, big people. And so it kind of pushed me. Like when I went surfing, like I had to go for the big wave, or I had to like stay out there twice as long as everyone else to prove who I am. And I love what you said. It's like coming back each day and checking with this, because that mind and ego, sometimes I just have to really feel it and tap into it. Like, okay, what am I feeling versus I'm thinking? Because I feel like my own thinking, as much as I strive in the spiritual journey without any basis of religion, you know, I grew up with New Age hippie family that was out there, but I never like resonated to one religion. I could feel the energy of all of them. And I still keep coming back from like love from the Native American shamanic, old school, like native land. But man, this mind of mine, you know, you can ask my beloved, it's like when we get into our biggest problems, it's like this mind wants to take over and try to prove itself. It wants to speak this game. And then I'm like, dude, I'm talking so much. Like, lose it. Lose the mouth, because I realize the mind, it's like, it just wants to keep speaking and talking. Before I know it, I'm like, okay, start over, come back to the beginning and reset, which that's my, you know, that's my limitation, my authenticity. When I want to try to say something and I realize the words are trying to come out too quickly versus, you know, just feeling them, hearing them, and just allowing that space, which I know is my journey, because I know I like, when I get excited, I like to talk a lot. So I have to slow down a little and just feel what I'm saying, so that vibration can come out and be more authentic, versus what we all see is talk, but not that like inner substance within. So I'm working on this every day. This mind of mine it's my little nemesis, which I got to get more love and a little more joy and appreciation each time.
Michael, you know, it just made me like think of, and maybe Sean and anyone else who gets in the water can agree. When I first started surfing, I remember go to the beach, and I'm just always ready to jump in. And I'd see these other surfers just sitting, watching the shore, watching the water. They didn't speak to what they were doing. I didn't ask, but I always felt like, what's wrong with you guys? There's waves out there, go get it. And then, you know, an old head spoke to me, This old brother from Singapore sat with me, and he's like, no, you got to go sit and look at the ocean. And, you know, so giving yourself that time to sit and look at the waves that are arriving at the shores of your consciousness and your being is something that it takes an effort, even for me. You know, now I'll go to the beach and I'll sit and I'll look, even if it's a new spot, and just kind of get a feel, see where everyone's pedaling out, see the directions they're taking, and, you know, start to visualize what I'm going to do when I get out into the water. And even before I paddle for a wave, I'm letting a couple pass so that I can see what's going on and think and envision. And this is a practice that, you know, I'm feeling like I'm wanting to employ in other areas of my life, to really give myself the time to look at the shore, to look at the water as it's coming, because it's changing every day. You know, there's some things that are similar, there's some cycles, but it's always new. And so to like appreciate that and honor it, and to learn from it and to navigate with that, have a better time when I'm out. Yeah.
I feel that. I miss that. I'm on the East Coast now, so there's not many waves here. But I've learned when I lived in Mexico, one of my biggest keys was just to sit by the water and really listen to the water, feel the water, even before going out. Just watch it and just connect with the element of water, and then always knowing that she'll always be bigger than you, because she can knock you down as quick as you get back up. So there's that respect. Thank you for sharing that. Blessings.
Indeed, for sure. And that's also, you know, I felt like I was more in touch with my feminine. Like I could take that with me. I can now sit, you know, you get in the water enough, you can sit and you can dream about it. You can, everything that goes on, and do this in your head. But like, that's, you know, the feminine within me. I equate that to the ocean as well. And so getting in touch with that takes some time. You know, it's really good to take that time. Will we give ourselves that time? Oh, brother.
You know, what I took from what you... So you go, Sean.
Go ahead, Brad.
All right, thank you. What I took from what was just shared and what was going on for me is how much I think and speak over the love that's already present.
Mm.
Mm.
I was, were you finished on that thought?
You're interrupting the love.
Feels powerful.
Go for it, man.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
Love it.
No, yeah, go ahead, John.
I was, and just so everybody knows in this group, also, I was born with a birth defect where I have really poor hearing. I'm missing half of the stereocilia in each ear. So sometimes I'll do things like that. It's been my whole life where I'll miss something and speak out of turn or that type of thing. But it's been a blessing and a challenge. But when on the concept of authenticity and you know, expressing what's gone on with me even in this container tonight, I've been noticing as I'm doing my best to stay present, it's like they're somewhere in this mud, like at the bottom of my gut was there's an image of like a serpent that keeps coming up through my gut, and it's really uncomfortable. And as it makes its way into my throat, it burns. And as I was sitting with the feelings of what is that and letting it burn, there was some shame down there in the bottom of the gut, but as it passed through sort of my solar plexus area, it felt more like fear. And what I was experiencing earlier was sort of this mixture of fear and anger about being judgmental, which is that sort of recognizing what was happening in the head or whatever, and allowing myself to just go in and be present as I was still staying present to what each man has been saying. And just allowing that it took place where I could hold this other image, like in my peripheral vision, I guess, my inner peripheral vision of this serpent doing its work, and then still staying here. And I just, multiple times as I've listened to each man, there's been these moments of connection where I've really felt what you're saying, and it's all of a sudden, woo, like a light, that love, that light love pops out, like, woo, oh yes, you know, and so that's my, I guess that's authentically expressing my view on being authentic and present in real time.
So how do we do more of that, Sean? How do we as men do more of that? That's an incredible, connection to make. And I always explore because love is light. The more love you have, the more light you become. And it doesn't have to
John,
be.
you're fucking beautiful. I just gotta say it, you know.
Thanks, brother.
I love you, man. I love you. Like I just remember like the time that I got to spend with you, and just the father and the man that I got to see you be. It's very inspiring, and it's, you know, I just appreciate you, dude. And I
love you too, Az.
Yeah, man, you're amazing. All of you. This is really beautiful.
Well, my answer to the question of how do we do it is practice. You know, that's what came up for me, and that's really all it is practice in being present. I use the term, and is it Michael or Miguel? Miguel,
Yeah.
you touched on your love for etymology, which I share the same love, and the word "the current" expresses the current moment, but also this experience of moving at the speed of now, which is infinitely faster than the speed of light. And to drop into the current and do it over and over is to be present, and also doing my best to be aware of what's going on. And for me, the practice, when I start to label it, and then for some reason I try to grasp at it, then I get snatched right out of the current. And if I just let it go, then maybe an image arises, like that serpent, you know, where did that come from, or, you know, that type of thing. And following that and being able to the practice, I think, is to hold two things at once, to be able to hold two things at the same time, to hold a steady awareness and presence with, as I'm listening to each one of you. And really, I think that would be the masculine, to hold the steady presence, to show up like this. And then also allow the dance that's going on inside of me, all the shit and beauty and everything that's stirring up, to let it be until it is my time to express, you know, that type of thing. So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Love it.
All right. Yeah, that's all I had to say. Yeah, it's beautiful. Like I said that I did love etymology, but at the same time, I do feel like I'm relatively good at just being in that space and in that silence. And the way you described it of riding the current and being the current and feeling into the current of everything at once, and the speed that it is, and the non-speed that it is. That's what we need to learn to do more as human beings, is just be there. And Yeah, like that expression of I don't know what it is. Good simple minds talk about events that are happening, and I don't know, medium-sized minds or something talk about people, and great minds talk about ideas. But I've always thought that there's a further one, and that's like the best souls, or whatever you want to call it, feel into the now and express your feeling. And even ideas, sometimes I just get bored, or it just doesn't even feel worthy to like think in the idea realm sometimes, you know. Like, I'm not saying you're like above the idea realm, but it's like ideas come through naturally through your presence of just being, and I feel like talking about it sometimes is intellectualizing it. And it's coming, my voice is coming back and hitting me, so I'm not sure if you're hearing me, but
It's okay now.
Can hear you.
Yeah, if people could learn to be okay with the space of your thoughts, like even then I just pause for 2 seconds. There's so many little things that are really important, and silence is the top thing, I think. Yeah.
The pause is important, and I want to honor what you said as well, Sean. I think that was remarkable. And as you were talking, I was having this imagery and noting within me, I can get into the flow, I can see the images coming, but then acknowledging them and accepting them, that's a whole different step for me anyways. And so that practice of acknowledging when you're in the flow, yes, I'm in the flow. Yes, I'm getting intuitive guidance. Yes, I'm getting all these images. Oh, fuck, that's too ugly. I don't want to look at that. No, let's move here. That's a little bit more pretty, right? And looking at the ugly, looking at the shadow side and shining that light has really been my deep exploration for the last 3 or 4 years. And finding out what that is all about, right? Because when you don't, in my view, when you resist, it persists. When it persists, it becomes magnified. When it becomes magnified, you really don't have a level of control. And it's not about control, but you have the option of really honoring that in your own space, in a way, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to add to that.
Oh.
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 I'm gonna share something that's kind of odd, but I feel like it's in line within my experience. You know, one of the areas that I've been navigating along this journey in terms of loving myself, just backstory, right? I had testicular cancer, 2008, 2009. I had to kind of work through that, and so, you know, during the time of navigating that whole space, I had one testicle removed, and it really messed with my whole body image, you know, at the time. And I also had some complications, which I've been able to navigate through, and all the plumbing's working great now, so I'm excited about that. But along the journey of really, like, that journey of having this anxiety about my body and not knowing if you know, it's going to fight me and living, and just the body image issues down there, you know, I had to move through it by just exposing myself, trying to be natural, but also changing my self-love practice. Mm-hmm. And so in that practice, one thing that I've navigated since probably about 2018 was allowing for whatever images want to come up. You know, sometimes, I don't know if you guys seen 40-Year Virgin, 40-Year-Old Virgin, that movie, where he's starting to get into it, and then he's got this image of a woman, and the woman has his face, and he's like, oh, whatever. And so, like, so in my practice of loving myself on both sides and really just allowing, you know, sometimes things pop up. And so it's been really healing to allow whatever needs to pop up. I've had things come up from my childhood that I might have been suppressing, you know, and just to navigate through that and trust and love myself. I might have an image, I might have watched a TV show and some odd shit pops into my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to still continue along this and allow for what needs to be released. But it's the allowing of what needs to come up. And
Yeah.
so that's present in my self-love, but then I'm also seeing it start to pop up in other interactions with people. And I feel like it's a really powerful way of moving in that allowance, whether it's in conversation or in conversation with your own frame, with your own body.
Mhm.
And I think that it's beautifully stated, because I feel all of us, we're in a constant journey of really just accepting who we are, exactly who we are, right? I mean, I really feel like we are perfect as who we are, come in, and everything has a reason. And I appreciate your just the truth of what you have to go through as right, and feel those elements, because all of us, I feel on a day-to-day basis, it's constantly accepting exactly where we are, exactly what's happening, and not trying to fight that. And that acceptance, in my personal journey, is just to keep loving myself, keep respecting myself, keep honoring myself, keep doing that, so that I don't have to validate it, or I don't have to prove it, or I don't have to do it from another means.
I can.
At 9:30, I just have my meeting that I do out here.
And just be that authenticity of who I am. And I feel like that self acceptance, that self allowance, from in my personal journey and navigation, coming back to self love and honoring that, because the more I can love myself, the more I can express that love out, the more I can be kind to myself, the more I can be kind outwardly, without trying to do more or less, but just being that. Because I feel that's, for me, I just feel like that's the gift of why we're here. We have this magnificent power within us, and we get to share that. We get to serve it. We get to be in this human world, which sometimes is fucking crazy, but like we're gifted to be here, to do all that we can. And the more authentic we can be in our hearts and truth, and so be it. And so I think the more we can, accept everything about us, good, bad, wrong, right. There's no duality. Just that's who we are, and that's definitely a journey that I've been moving through. And again, I just keep coming back to this wild, wacky craze that we're all moving through right now. I just have to laugh at it sometimes, because it's unreal what we're seeing, and how much is coming up and coming back to, okay, who are you? How are you going to accept it? What are you going to do about it? Because this is what we're here to do. We're here to be the best and the fullest, not the best, but the fullest expression of who we are. So yeah. I just feel there's no holding back right now. It's just coming out, being real, and checking yourself, right?
Oh, so do you want to go?
No, go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Yeah, I moved through something really recent around what you're saying, is that I got asked a question, and it was by my partner, Abby, actually, and she said, Bradley, can you, if I wasn't to expand anymore, if my business wasn't to get any bigger, any more successful, if I wasn't to have any more money in my bank, if I was never going to have a better car or a nicer house, or if our relationship was never going to get any better, if my body would always, if I'd never get any sort of fitter, or, could I love myself exactly as I am right now, knowing there would never be any improvement, And the answer was no in that moment. But the power of that question, it made me completely readdress how I was looking at myself, because I was always loving somewhere in the future. I thought I'd been doing self-love, but I was either going into the past and trying to love a little child within me, or I was going into the future and imagining where I'd be when I did love that child. Forgetting that I couldn't love the person that I was being right now for who I am right now, without any without any sense of future. And it sparked just a really, it just moved through me from really seeing that, and it dropped from my head into my heart, this understanding of what self-love was in that moment. And it went from being like knowledge or a rumor to actually being a truth. And then from there, I just started to show up differently to myself. And I look at myself in the mirror and look at my head, which is, I used to give myself such a hard time for losing my hair. you know, look at myself in the mirror every day and hate on my head, and just starting to bring touch and love and accept, you know, real just like love and beauty for my to my head, to my belly. I put on a little bit of weight, and I realized every day I was going and I was working out with the intention of improving, and I got present, like as this dropped in. It's like how every action I was taking was in the context of being better, doing the next course, the next healing, the next training, showing up to the next moment so I could be an improved version. And I really saw like actually how the opposite of self-love that was. And from there, it's just like all this just natural, tender stuff that, you know, even just touching myself, my body, looking at myself in the mirror, being intimate with myself. And as soon as that started to shift, I started to be able to notice life in a whole different way. And I went for a run the other day, and I was running, and I just was witnessing, you know, like I could see almost like the grass growing, and I saw the sun in the sky and the kids playing. And Ez put a video out recently about being intimate with life, and I had that experience of like seeing that everything was just a reflection of me and the beauty of the moment.
That's amazing, Brad. Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh.
That present moment. Wow. There's so much to be said about that present moment and co-creating in that present moment.
I feel like in this present moment, we're all getting very close, and yeah, just really appreciative of you guys. And I don't know where it's going to go from here, but a lot of beauty here, a lot of beauty here. So just acknowledging that.
I want to tell you a little bit about me and the context. Just because from a context perspective in my journey, this is very hard for me to do. I've made a concerted effort to walk into my fears. Michael was actually the first person I did my first FaceTime live. It was such a magical experience, such a great experience. So I was, again, this is so difficult for me to do, to be here and to express my authenticity and my truth. I'll tell you why though, and that started when I was a 5-year-old. I was born in Greece, had a sister, and my parents decided to make a better life for themselves. So they decided to emigrate to Canada, which I am right now. And I remember distinctly, as a 5-year-old, my mother waking me up quite early in the morning and kneeling down in my ear and saying, "You're gonna have to be the man of the house now. Your dad and I are going away for 6 months, and we'll be back to get you." 2 years later, I've lost connection completely with my parents. So that particular pain, because it was a pain, it was a separation, it was an abandonment, it was whatever you want to call it, it was. I remember that 5-year-old body having so much pain, not knowing how to deal with that pain. So what I decided to do at that point in time is to say, I won't participate in life anymore. I'm going to let life just be life, and I'm going to just observe and witness life. And I've done that for the most of my life until I didn't like where life was taking me. I made no decisions. I let life make the decisions for me. Every decision that was made out of insecurity, fear, whatever that was. There was no power or authenticity in that life until I decided to make a conscious decision, as difficult as it was, to walk into that fear, to claim the authenticity, not even know what that means to me. It was messy. It was incredibly messy. For me, doing this is still messy. I won't know until I keep practicing it, right? So yes, honoring those feelings, honoring the awareness and being rooted and grounded in that present moment, because the present moment is all there is. And if I can stay in that moment and be the most authentic being I can be, then I've accomplished whatever I needed to accomplish. So.
And I want to thank you, Zesis, for really stepping into what appears your discomfort zone, but you're doing it awesome. You know, you're coming out and sharing it. And, you know, I look at myself a lot of times to see how comfortable am I getting, you know, like, because I feel a lot of times when we can move into that discomfort and honor that discomfort and really see where that growing is, you know, a lot of times, like, you know, because I love surfing so much, I look at where sometimes I can watch my edge and see where I want to go out and really take on something that scares the living shit out of me. And then come back and be like, well, wait a minute, was that just, am I letting my fears control me? Or am I allowing myself to say, you know what, just keep coming deep within it and feel, because I know that growing edge is always there for us to expand and to feel and to allow that the fullness within us. And so, you know, I honor you for bringing us together, for, you know, for all of this, because I love what you said, Sean, about what's coming through, you know, that the beautiful snake, the transformation, the serpents, you know, blessings of what's being happening on this, let alone what's happening on a collective level, what we're representing, because this is the realness that we're coming into. And then all the emotions that are coming into are being brought forward to in our own individual healing, but group healing and collective. So aho, brother, for allowing this opportunity and just really, you know, pushing, because I feel like it's easy, at least for me, to stay in that comfort zone sometimes, but just to, you know, move into those edges and those areas that feel a little uncomfortable, I really started to appreciate more and more and look back and say, wait a minute, it wasn't so uncomfortable. It wasn't that bad. You know, once I moved in there, once I felt the support and realized that we're divinely supported, there's no discomfort. It's just the mind holding us back. It's just that fear or limitation that we're here to expand upon. So blessings, brother, for you, you know, to come forth in that truth and really reveal it, because I feel that's even expanding larger and growing even bigger.
Yeah.
Oh. And I'll take this moment to Bradley started it and Zesis really finished it. Man, you touched a well of sorrow. The inside of me was touched. I generally am not in touch with grief. And in your share, Bradley, you touched a well and it leaked out my eyes and everything. And thank you. It was just gorgeous. And then Zesis, it just carried into to your share right there. So I just acknowledge, thank you, you know.
Yeah. Which just tells me that we all, you know, we all have our cross to bear. We all have our things, as it were. And wouldn't it be a much better place when we can just express our authenticity and support each other doing so? Because that's the world I want to live in, quite frankly. Right?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So these are the deeper explorations as we explore further into, and you know, whatever emerges. There's no real set discussion points. It's whatever is in the moment, in the collective, I think, is what needs to be expressed, explored, and then integrated and released. And I think doing this work together, as the amazing, magnificent men that you are, will hopefully make a difference in someone's life. Not really as, you know, even if it's a word, a kind word, or an understanding, or a different perspective. I mean, anything to bring a bridge together and unite, I think, is all worth it for me.
Thank you.
So I don't know about you guys, but it feels like this is the perfect place to stop for this first collective. I'm willing to explore it further, but for me, it feels like this is the perfect place. So if we all in agreement, then I really very much appreciate your authenticity. You're coming to the space and expressing oneself And I look forward to the journey as we invite other men to join us to explore it further as well. I love you all. Thank you.
Love you, brothers. Thank you.
Love you, brothers.
Aloha, family.
Thank you. Thank you for holding the sacred space.
I feel
gentlemen.
very complete.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very complete. Thank you.
It's a great way to start the day.
Yeah.
Azariah, I'm gonna always say aloha now because I absolutely love that, man. It's such a
Aloha's awesome.
Can you feel the love in that word? I mean, that's
it's so
ha,
perfect.
breath of life.
It's perfect.
Yeah, the divine breath. Aloha. Let it
Huna
resonate.
way, the Huna way
Yeah.
is such a beautiful method. The Huna is, oh my goodness, there's so much love. Absolutely.
I've been diving a little bit into Ho'oponopono, and it's something that I've been doing naturally, but it's good to get some context,
Yeah.
into this journey.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful practice.
Mm.
So for Bradley, have an amazing sleep, Bradley. It's quite late where you are. For everyone else, Bradley, do you want to say something?
Oh, it's not late here. It's like 5. I think Sean's the one who
Oh,
probably
right.
wants to get off to the
It's it's almost midnight here, I think.
Yeah, Azariah just
I just want to
his
say,
day in it.
I just want to say that I
Anyway.
feel so lit up by the experience of being around you guys. Like, genuinely, really elevated, and I'm really feeling the love. And it's just, I'm really grateful for that. So thank you.
I'd just like to
you
say,
so much.
Usual, brother.
thank you guys. It's nice to have some beautiful men. I'm surrounded a lot by women, and a lot of women have always surrounded my life. So when I can see beautiful, sacred men, it touches me because I'm like, man, I love women. Trust me, I love them. But it's nice just to bring some just good energy in our in who we are without any stereotypes together, so we can just feel each other's vibration. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing.
Have an amazing day.
Blessings.
Amazing blessing day. God bless, guys. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Be increased, brother. Aloha.
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 Aloha. Aloha.
Aloha.
Lots of love.
Lots of love.
Bye.